Welcome to today's special episode of Date in a Blink. My name is Tali, and I'm so excited to share this special episode with you, the final one of Season 2. Before I get into talking about this season, I want to share the story of where the idea for Date in a Blink came from. A few years ago, I ate at a blackout restaurant and had the chance to meet and get to know people in total darkness. I had an amazing conversation with total strangers without having any idea what they looked like. After the dinner ended, I saw them for the first time, and I realized that had I seen them beforehand, I would have assumed we'd have nothing in common, and I would have been totally wrong. It sparked the thought, would people be more willing to meet and get to know one another if they didn't know what the other people looked like first? Fast forward to 2020, and Date in a Blink was born. I wanted to see if this was a positive way for people to date. Would daters be able to make connections? Would they have better or more matches? I'm excited to answer some of those questions today. The Season 1 match rate for Date in a Blink was 56%, so my goal was something comparable with Season 2. I was pretty psyched that the match rate for Season 2 was quite a bit higher, coming in at 75%, getting the podcast average for our 34 dates to 62%. And thinking about that number, it's kind of incredible that traditional dating apps match rate is only 1 to 10%. And while traditional dating apps display images, whereas the Date in a Blink podcast experience does not, that doesn't necessarily explain a 50% match rate differential. Love is not blind, no, but it also isn't that picky. And I'm not just saying that. As I shared at the end of last season, the podcast was a proof of concept for a soon-to-launch dating app. Well, the app launched as a beta in Los Angeles earlier this year, and we learned a ton, including what happens to that 62% match rate when you introduce photos. The match rate didn't plummet to 1% or even 10%. The match rate on the Blink Date app was a solid 40%. That's 4 to 40 times higher than other dating apps. It makes one wonder, why is the match rate so low on other dating apps? There are lots of theories out there, from the fact that they're modeled after slot machines and incentivize a bigger, better next mindset, to the way that they make it so easy to filter people out and turn preferences into deal breakers. Regardless of why, online dating today is broken. 75% of daters say it's hard to find someone these days, and 80% of still single people delete their dating apps on a regular basis because they're not working. Blink is excited to be changing the world of online dating and offering people a way to truly connect and build relationships. So if you're wondering how you can try out the Blink Date app, here's the latest. The beta was in Los Angeles since I was based there when I started Blink. I've since relocated to New York, so I'm gearing up for a New York City launch. If you're a New Yorker interested in a better way to date, join our waitlist at www.theblinkdate.com so you can be the first to know when we launch. And if you're outside of New York City, I'd still love if you join the waitlist because it cues me into where we should launch next. I want to take my final moments here to thank everyone who helped with the podcast. To Laura Sacconi, Gustavo Del Pino Mendoza, and Doug Pickard, who contributed to, edited, mastered, and helped promote the podcast, thank you. I also want to thank Elise Caldwell, who helped research and prepare for all of our expert episodes this season. Those episodes were a new addition to the podcast, and I had no idea how they'd turn out. But now I know they would have been nothing had Elise not been part of the team preparing for each one. I'm also incredibly thankful to each and every one of our daters for the season. Thank you for participating in this experiment, for trusting me, and for being so open to the experience. And finally, thank you, dear listeners, for coming on this journey with me. If you enjoyed the podcast, please rate and review it. In the meantime, I hope to see you all in a blink.